Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kings of Fantasy Football. My name is Pablo, and here is my co-host.
Leo.
So, on today's episode, we are going to give our early rankings for quarterbacks. On our other episodes, we discussed running backs, we discussed wide receivers. So, on this episode, we are going to discuss quarterbacks. So, we're going to discuss essentially where they were overall last year and kind of see what we think it's going to look like for them this year. So, the overall QB1 last year was none other than Josh Allen. So, we've kind of talked about him in our previous episodes. I don't think that he is going to finish QB1. I don't think he's going to repeat that just because of losing the weapons of Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. Um, he still has his tight ends. He has the rookie wide receiver. I think his saving grace is going to be his legs, but um, just I'm just gonna name the top five QBs, and Leo, you tell me if he'll finish in the top five. So it was Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, and Jordan Love. Do you think he can be a top five QB this year?
Um, yeah, I think he could still be a top five QB. Like I said, like you said, he did lose Diggs, Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, but he's still gonna make plays. He's a gunslinger. Um, I would say he might finish maybe in the 3 to 4 range. But I think definitely he'll stay in the top five. Uh, you got Keon Coleman. He's got a whole bunch of receivers that they brought in. Like we kind of mentioned before, to me they're mostly like wide receiver twos and threes. But we'll see if any of them can rise to the occasion and make start making plays when it counts. In the fall.
All right. I don't know if he'll finish in the top five just because, again, that list that I just named off, I don't know if he's gonna do better than Hurts, Lamar, Love. Um, the name that was honestly um surprising to me, and I don't know if he'll finish in the top five again is Dak Prescott. Like I know CeeDee Lamb was number one last year. I know they had a good season, but I don't think I can trust Dak Prescott um, as my QB to start every week. Um, but before we dive into Dak, do you think Jalen Hurts can repeat last year? I don't think he will be able to just because I think Barkley's going to take some of those. It's going to take a lot of pressure off of Hurts. So I don't think that he finishes as QB2
I
this year.
think, yeah, I think, yeah, Barkley will take some of the load off of him. But I still think that he still has the weapons. They're still gonna need him to pass. Like to me, the Barkley and Hurts and obviously the AJ Brown and Smith, Devontae Smith, they are gonna complement each other. So and Dallas Goddard. So it's gonna be one of the better offenses in the league for sure. And I think he should remain in the top five. Out of the players that you were mentioning, yeah, Dak's probably one that I think maybe might fade out of there. Like even what's weird is that Patrick Mahomes is not even. You mentioned Patrick Mahomes wasn't even in the top five, which is pretty astonishing. I know, he didn't have the best year. They were kind of slow in the beginning year, and then they cranked it up at the end. So he wasn't even on there. And now, there's gonna be other names that are coming up later that we'll mention, but um. Yeah, I think Hurts can still hang in there. Out of those top five, probably Dak maybe drops out and one of these other guys may come in.
So diving into Dak Prescott, would would you draft him as your QB1? considering you have someone like Lamar Jackson who finished QB4, Jordan Love, and the next five names is Purdy, Goff, Mahomes,
Yeah,
Tua, and the surpriser too was with Baker.
yeah.
I think I would prefer having any other one of those guys over Dak Prescott.
So there is a possibility that I might end up with Dak Prescott because, like I mentioned, I wait on quarterbacks. So if I'm not getting one of those top five guys, like I said, I would put Mahomes ahead of him. I would put C.J. Stroud ahead of him. Joe Burrow, even probably even Kyler Murray. I really like Kyler Murray a lot this year. To me, Dak would be more towards like the top 10, like around 10ish, maybe to 12 in there. That's where he would fall for me. And like normally there are like 12 teams in a league, so for me there's definitely a possibility I get him, but I would draft him later, not towards the top five ish of where he was ranked last year at the end of the year.
All right. The reason I say that is because besides CD Lamb, I know he has a pretty good tight end in Dallas. Besides CD, I don't see an elite wide receiver on their squad.
Yeah,
So if something happens to CD, I think he's not going to perform as well. And the
yeah,
one that is always intriguing to me, if when he's available in the drafts that I've done the last 2 years, is Lamar Jackson. Um, he ended up with the MVP season last year. Um, he did really, really well in the playoffs. Like I think if you had him in the playoffs last year, you probably won your championship. Well, I don't know if it was the semifinals. I don't remember when he had all those touchdowns. And it's going to be really interesting with him and Derrick Henry because I think normally they do plays for Lamar, quarterback draws, they design plays for him to run, but with signing Derrick Henry, I think you're signing him to protect Lamar. So he finished as QB4 last year. So I don't know. What do you think about Lamar? I think it's really interesting this upcoming year.
yeah. He had a phenomenal year last year. I remember me and you spoke before the before the year. I told you I really liked him last year. You said I was crazy, and I got lucky, I guess. But it's yeah, what made Lamar Jackson always a great player. He was always awesome with his legs. He's one of the better rushing quarterbacks in the game. A tremendous athlete. They brought in Flowers, that he was a up and coming receiver. Mark Andrews is probably still number one, his tight end. Uh, they still got Bateman there. They have a rookie coming up, Devontae Walker. That's a guy to look at in your deeper leagues. And yeah, obviously we like you mentioned Derrick Henry. He's hard to bring down. He's a bust. He's a load to take down. He's gonna probably all those like will probably affect the more Lamar Jackson is like those rushing touchdowns, because when they're close to the goal line, more than likely Henry's gonna be the one that will pound the rock in. So that's where he might get like a little bit more affected. Those extra points that he would get on the ground towards the goal line. So he might have an opportunity, a chance probably to also get out of the top five with the arrival of Derrick Henry, I think.
Now, do you think because he had an MVP season, you think he'll get drafted higher this year? I think people are going to expect him to still do well. The Ravens were a win away from getting to the Super Bowl. So I think everyone's gonna expect him to have another good year. I mean, this would probably, like you said last year, you told me to draft him and I didn't listen. And what if I draft him this year and he doesn't? He
Yeah,
doesn't repeat.
yeah. I think that he's still gonna be drafted like one of the first four quarterbacks, no matter what. Uh, just because of he has he has an underrated great arm. He could throw, and like we talked, he can run. So just because of the rushing, he'll still be in the in the conversation top five. Like most of these quarterbacks, to be honest with you, none of them are like head and shoulders above the rest. Like the to me, the quarterback is very deep now. Throughout all these years, teams that have been bad, they've been drafting quarterbacks. The Dolphins have Tua. Now the Texans have C.J. Stroud. Now Jordan Love is raising his game as well. Jared Goff. It's like there's a lot of good quarterbacks in the league, and even Justin Herbert that he last year he was going in the top four. Now he's ranked like 16th or something like that. So and he can he can sling it too. So it's very quarterback is very deep. That's why to me you could always wait on quarterbacks, but the top four tend to no matter what they're always gonna go earlier, like probably the in the top three, four rounds for sure. And I can see definitely still Lamar Jackson being drafted there. Now, expectations. Everyone. I'm sure they're gonna expect him to do what he did last year. I I think he's gonna be a little lower, but like I said, it's not gonna be too much of a difference.
So speaking of expectations, so the next few guys that finished after Lamar Jackson was Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff. So out of those three, um, I honestly would lean towards Goff, even though he finished as overall QB7 just because of the weapons he has. Now I'm not saying that the Packers or the Niners don't have weapons, but I think just Goff has more experience. Jordan Love had a great year. Brock Purdy, the year he had. But to me, there's question marks with Brock Purdy just because we don't know what's going to happen with his wide receivers. So if his wide receivers end up leaving, he's not going to have as many weapons to throw to. With Jordan Love, he's so young. So I personally would rather go with someone who's been performing well consistently. What out of those three, who would you draft if you had
I
draft
yeah.
someone?
So out of those three, I would probably lean probably Jordan Love. I would rank on probably Jordan Love, then Jared Goff, and then Brock Purdy. I think Love is he has I know Goff has Saint Amon, Ra, and then Jameson Williams. He's coming. Hopefully he can finally show up, and obviously Laporta. That's a good receiving core there. But Jordan Love also has a nice rising receiving core too. The thing with him is just we need to if Chris as good as Love did last year, he basically did all that without Christian Watson because he was mainly hurt throughout the whole year with his hamstrings. If he happens to stay healthy the whole year with Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Dobbs, and then he's got two awesome receiving tight ends, Tyler Kraft and Luke. And Luke, so it's just he's got a lot of receivers there too. And then Josh Jacobs is now in town. They're gonna rush as well. So that's an up and coming offense too. That like I said, the quarterbacks is so deep this year that it's you can definitely wait. as we keep talking about, these further guys further down the list, you can see is what's really the difference, you know?
Yeah, the next two guys, it's going to be interesting because you had Mahomes finish eight, Tua finishing nine,
Hmm.
uh, Baker 10, but of course I'm gonna be a little biased. Number 11, because he was hurt, or didn't play two games, is Stroud.
Yeah.
So Mahomes, Tua, and Stroud to me, I think they might get drafted higher this year. Um, I mean Tua, I mean that guy. There's weeks that he can really give you a lot of points. But Dolphins offense, head coach has a really good knack for offensive plays. I mean, Mahomes, even though he had a down year fantasy wise, he still ended up with with the ring. Um, between those three, do you think Stroud, because of the weapons he has now, would get drafted um higher than any of the guys we've already talked about? Or do you
Yeah.
think he
So
still gets drafted later?
yeah. So like these guys that the Stroud, Tua,
Well,
and Mahomes, like like those three guys, I would prefer the draft over the previous three. Purdy, uh, and
so
Love,
you would
and yeah. So these
any
like
of those
what's that?
over
I would draft any of those
any
three
over
over the previous three. Yeah, for sure, no doubt. Um, I have those guys ranked higher. Two will probably be like the one that I could probably interchange, like at the end of these. Like I would draft Mahomes, obviously a little ahead, and Stroud. To me, Mahomes, I would draft him as a top five quarterback. No, for sure. They have the thing where we don't know about Rashid Rice, what's going on with him, but they did draft Xavier Worthy, that he's gonna be uh he's he's fast and he's gonna make plays. He's already been turning heads in OTAs already. The And then Tyler Kelsey, of course. So I know people might be a little scared of Mahomes, but to me, he's still gonna play. You saw what he did at the end of the year. When he wants to play, he plays. To me, I think they were just cruising last year, and just turned it on at the end. Um, in terms of CJ Stroud, is probably the one that's gonna be high, rising, uh, really high in the rankings. Now that they got Stephon Diggs with Nico Collins and Tank Delphi comes back healthy, Dalton Schultz, so that they have a lot of talent there that he can exploit NFL defenses. Then you throw in the running back Joe Mixon, that he's a good receiver as well. So yeah, CJ Stroud's gonna make a make some fantasy managers happy for sure, and you too.
so personally, I don't know if I would rank Mahomes ahead of Golf, to be honest, just because um even though again he's one of the top players in the NFL, um I still like Detroit weapons more than I do Chiefs. But like you said, depending on what happens with Rice, I think if Rice doesn't get suspended or anything, then maybe I'll change my mind. But I think if they do lose Rice, um, that was an important receiver for Mahomes last year. Um, I I would of course do Rice and probably draft over Mahomes or Tua. Um, I think I agree with you that Stroud was probably going to get drafted way early compared to last year. Um, I would say in the top 3 or 4 rounds for sure. If he's there, people are gonna want to pick him up. The rest of the names to me are are interesting. Um, so like you that like to wait, let's say that you're waiting to the later round. The names after Sam Cowell, who's in Seattle now, Trevor Lawrence, Russell Wilson, and Matthew Stafford. Then you had, Derek Carr and Justin Herbert. So those are pretty much like the bigger names. Um, out of those guys, if I had to have a QB1, I would probably go with Matthew Stafford, um, who, and I would draft him over Herbert just because Herbert lost no weapons, definitely over Carr. Russell Wilson's in Pittsburgh now, and Trevor Lawrence, I don't
Yeah.
think I would want to have him as my QB1. So out of those names, again, if you're those are the guys that you're having to pick from, especially if you wait for a QB, who's your QB1?
So out of those guys, I might even like go even further back because some of these other guys that I'm gonna mention now that they were injured, so they're gonna leapfrog over all these guys. So we have Joe Burrow that's coming back from injury. I would definitely, to me, he's easily top 10, close to top 5. I like Anthony Richardson. He was a rookie last year. He got injured, didn't play that much, and he was producing, on the ground. He kind of reminds me of like Cam Newton. He's big boy, and can run, and now he has another receiver weapon with a Donnie Mitchell. So he's a guy to look out for, and all these other guys, even Kyler Murray. Like people forget, he didn't play for over half the year, and now he has Marvin Harrison. So like to me, I think those three guys are gonna be drafted over those guys that you mentioned. To be honest with you.
So you say Burrow, I can see that. The biggest question mark, right now is Jamar Chase getting his contract, getting his money. I
Yeah.
think that if he holds out, who knows what'll happen there. Um, I've always been iffy about Kyler, but I think
Hmm.
with Marvin Harrison, I don't know if Hopkins is gonna. No, Hopkins is Tennessee now. So you have essentially just him.
And he has a Trey McBride. He's like one of the
Right,
better tight ends.
and
That he's gonna probably be like a top 3, top 4 tight end taken this year.
now out of those names that you mentioned, other guys that are coming back from injury who we haven't talked about, would you draft Cousins or Aaron Rodgers over any of the guys you mentioned?
I would have those guys ranked behind those guys. They, Cousins is still recovering. Um, to me, we don't know if he's gonna be like ready for the start of the season as of now, at my understanding. I think there's a good chance he might be, but he's still up in the air. Um, but if he plays, look, you can wait even longer. And then Aaron Rodgers, he's good, but he's a little older. But I would rank them just behind those guys.
Okay, now let's switch gears for this last few minutes. So out of all the guys that we've named, um, obviously we talked about who we think will be in the top five. So probably Allen, Hurts, Lamar, Mahomes, Tua, CJ. So when it's a two QB league, unless you're not gonna want an elite QB in the first round, and you're gonna go for a position player. If you do have one of these elites, um, for your second QB, do you also wait? To get, like you say, the Kyler Murrays, the I guess Staffords, those types of guys, or are you still looking for um, another elite QB for your number two in two QB.
So yeah, for me, I try to depend. It might depend on where I draft. So there's definitely in the first round, I'm gonna try to get a quarterback, one of these top guys. Second round, depending where I draft, I might tend to be draft either a good receiver that's fallen because since all these quarterbacks are being taken, these stud receivers get pushed back. So probably try to get a stud receiver in the second round, or if we get lucky, Bijan or Robinson or if Brees Hall, happen to fall too, that's definitely guys to draft as well. Uh, I would probably try to get like if even if another elite quarterback happens to fall, hey, if you double up with two elite quarterbacks, like no one's gonna be able to touch you, uh, there, more than likely I will get one of those top 5 to 7 top 7 quarterbacks, and then try to get someone in that next top 15. So I would always try to get at least 2 of the top 15 quarterbacks that are ranked. So just to be covered in the 2 quarterback league or superflex, and then the third quarterback, try to get someone that has a lot of potential, that could break out this year, like like a
So you're
like
talking
a Caleb
Caleb Williams.
Williams, exactly. Jaden Daniels, someone like that, like these rookies that they have an awesome amount of weapons and they can run, stuff like that. Even Will Levis, that if you want to wait a little someone deeper, like he rushes, and he's got now he got DeAndre Hopkins back. Now he's got Calvin Ridley as well. So he's got some more weapons to throw to. So there's like I said, quarterbacks deep.
Um, I, just because last year was my first year, I think I'm definitely going to rather have three really good quarterbacks, even if it means drafting them early, just because of what happened last year. I mean, last
Yeah.
year, a lot of injuries at the quarterback position. So I think I'd rather play it safe. Now, the one guy that I do want to talk about because I think it's gonna definitely affect um, Justin Justin Jefferson's ADP. So they have named Sam Darnold as the starter in training camp. Do you think if he is the let's just say day one starter? I mean, I don't know if they'll bench him depending on his performance. But me personally, I think Justin Jefferson would benefit much more from having JJ McCarthy as his QB than Sam Darnold.
So no, if Sam Darnold happens to be the quarterback, like you have to draft him. Like obviously not high, but you know, but I would draft him late, sure. Uh, and if you want to cover yourself, you got McCarthy as a as a
But
as
if you
a
have two, if you have two already, I think I don't know if I'll waste a pick on Sam Darnold just because
yeah.
if he's not going to end up as
Like
your
to me,
starter. But I see what you mean.
yeah,
You
to
know,
me, Darnold will be like a fourth guy, just to have like a fourth quarterback out. Nothing that I would want to trust like on a weekly basis, or you want to cover yourself for injury. That's I would draft Darnold as a fourth QB, not as a third or anything like that, but just have some coverage there. Another guy too that's deep down there too is Bryce Young. He's got some they added some weapons. Deontay Johnson, they drafted Leggett. So he's got more options to throw to now too. So we'll see.
all right, yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there because I think it affects Justin Jefferson. I mean, I still think people are going to draft him high regardless, just because of his talent. You got to throw it to somebody, and it's probably going to be obviously be their first option. Um, but closing notes, just want to remind all of our listeners that depending on if you're in a QB1 and a QB2, as we've discussed, you it's going to change the way you draft clicks. So you definitely want to start thinking about that if you're going to be in a two QB league. Who do you want your two to be? Like Leo mentioned, if you have the opportunity to have two elite QBs, then no one may be able to touch you.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to mention was also take a look at your scoring settings, because sometimes that might dictate too, like what you want. Like if you're in a league that you're a quarterback only scores like four points per touchdown, that kind of brings them down, their value down a little bit too. So keep that in mind. Because then you will want to get more of a running quarterback as well. So keep that in mind.
Definitely important. It is starting to become more of a trend from what I've seen is 4 points for passing touchdowns, and that's probably just because the NFL is much more of a passing league now. But yeah, definitely check those settings because if you don't, then you're gonna have two of these QBs who may only give you 4 points per touchdown instead of the standard of six. Um, but that being said, just want to thank all of you for tuning in. If you do have any questions, you can reach me on X at Archreaper, ARCHREAPR. We're in all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube. So if you do like the podcast, give us a like and follow. Leo, where can they reach you?
Yeah, if you have any fantasy questions, feel free to you can reach me on X at smooth1074. I'm also on TikTok at ffleog. And hope if you guys like the pod, please rate and rate the pod. We really appreciate it. Spread the word. Trying to get out there, and thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.